Hello and welcome back. My name is Dr. Vanessa Milagros. In today's video, I'm going to walk you through the major causes of anxiety. Also, if you learned something new from today, make sure to subscribe, like, or comment your favorite part of the video down below. Let's get started. It's important to understand that anxiety is a normal part of life. We all experience some forms of anxiety, and it actually can be helpful in certain situations. However, when it becomes overwhelming or excessive, that is when it tends to not be helpful for us. That's why it is so important to understand the cause of anxiety, where anxiety comes from, because it's important to know, okay, this is what causes the anxiety. It's not just because you are a weak person. It's not just because you're not strong enough to not have anxiety. That's not the way it works. So let's get into some of the reasons why anxiety disorders may come about. So first we have the biological factors, right? So genetics, your brain chemistry, your brain structure, all of these things that everybody has and is made up of impacts your level of anxiety and your disposition to developing an anxiety disorder or not in the future. Anxiety disorders tend to run in families. So if you have anxiety disorder, it is very likely that one or more of your other family members also has an anxiety disorder, whether they've been diagnosed or not. As far as our brain chemistry, there are certain neurotransmitters such as serotonin and dopamine, GABA. These could all impact our moods, how we regulate them, our body's reactions to different stressors outside of ourselves. Think about it this way. The different chemicals inside of your brain communicate with each other in order to help you regulate your anxiety. When there's effective communication, we're good. When the communication is out of balance, then that's where you have the instances where you can develop an anxiety disorder. And this is not something that you can control on your own. This is why I like to say that it has nothing to do with how strong you are or how weak you are. It's literally the chemicals in your brain, your family history, the genes that you were born with, and the way your brain works. Let's talk about the brain structure. So we know that we have the amygdala, and this is what controls the fear response in your brain. Individuals who have an overactive amygdala tend to react to situations in a more heightened way. It's also important to note that our brain structures are actually tied to your emotional memories or past experiences. This is why certain experiences can trigger anxiety. Let's get into the environmental factors. So these are factors outside of yourself that can impact your ability to have an anxiety disorder. The first one is childhood experiences. When individuals experience trauma from a young age, this can have lasting impacts way into adulthood. And this can make you more prone to anxiety because it alters, it shapes how you view the world, whether the world is safe or not, whether you are safe in this world or not, how you view everyone and everything, and react to everyone and everything. So again, these are experiences outside of yourself that can contribute to anxiety and other mental health disorders such as depression, PTSD. Next, stressful life events, divorce, remarriages, job loss, the passing of a loved one, and many other examples such as these can trigger anxiety. And most importantly, family dynamics, how you grew up. In your household, did you see or have parents who were anxious all the time, who were worried, who were concerned, who were not able to relax, and maybe therefore did not allow you to relax in your own home? So were you always on high alert with the emotional reactions of the different family members in your home, whether it was your parents or your siblings? All of these things impact how we develop as children into young adults, into adults. Now let's get into psychological factors. Personality traits. What is your personality like? Do you have certain traits such as perfectionism? Are you a highly sensitive individual, or do you tend to do everything in your power to avoid confrontation? Some of these things can make you a little bit more vulnerable to anxiety because some of these traits can lead to more pressure. Why? Because there's always a constant need to meet an unrealistic expectation or to avoid uncomfortable, difficult situations. What about your thoughts? Individuals who have negative thinking patterns like catastrophizing, expecting the worst possible outcome to happen, or those who are consistently pessimistic, consistently is a key word here, tend to have the negative thinking patterns that contribute to anxiety. What did you see growing up? Learned behaviors contribute heavily to developing anxiety in the future. How did you see individuals react to certain situations? Then you learning how to react in that way. When certain behaviors are modeled for children, they develop those behavioral patterns and they act in them. They use that as coping strategies in order to get through life. And if it works, most likely they're going to keep using it. I didn't say if it was healthy, they were going to keep using it if it works. See, a lot of times we have negative patterns because it works for us. We like to keep those negative patterns because if it's not broke, oh, I fix it. That's how we think a lot of times. But if we're able to look closely through therapy or self-reflection, we can see that maybe this isn't actually working, or maybe this is only working in one area, but it's a hindrance in multiple other areas that we're maybe not ready to look at yet. Next is physical health. Physical health conditions such as thyroid, heart problems, all of these can contribute to anxiety. What about your lifestyle? Poor nutrition, Malnourishment, lack of exercise, adequate exercise is going to also contribute to anxiety. Let's go into the cultural and societal factors. This definitely weighs heavily. Within your social environment, was there a high and possibly unrealistic expectation or expectations for you to achieve things that maybe you didn't want to achieve, maybe it was pressured upon you or heavily encouraged, or maybe there was guilt involved for you to be a certain way, act a certain way, do things in a certain manner that did not align with who you are as an individual. You do not have to be told that having a mental health struggle is a bad thing. It is shown. You see it within reactions, within gossip that happens, within people's lack of attention to anything that has to do with mental health struggles. So for instance, if you share struggles with anxiety, negative thought patterns, depression, you don't have to have anybody say anything. You can just view their reaction and know, wait, we don't talk about this. Wait, this isn't a real thing. Wait, just get up and go to work. Wait, just get up and do your own thing. Like, it'll be fine. You'll be fine. There's nothing wrong with you. That's enough to tell you that this is something that you should hide, that your mental health struggle is not something to actually get help for. It's something that you're not doing enough of. It's something that you're not strong enough to defeat. And that is not the case here. If you have any mental health struggles, it does not make you weak. It does not make you less than. It just means that your brain works differently. It reacts differently. And just like a broken bone, you would go to the hospital to get it fixed. You would not try to fix it on your own. And you would not put yourself down for having a broken bone. You would get it fixed. Same thing with mental health struggles. If you need help, go see a therapist. Go see a psychiatrist if you'd like to be evaluated for assessments or medication management. If you don't want to go that route, see a therapist or a psychologist. Get around good people to support you, that care about you and love you and don't make you feel bad for having a mental health struggle, something that you cannot control. Start reading books about the different mental health struggle that you specifically relate to. Control your controllables. Work on the things that are going to help you. If you struggle with anxiety, I'm going to give you a few tips in a little bit to help you reduce your anxiety and the things that you can control. Now, it's important to say that just because this person has anxiety and this person has anxiety doesn't mean that it's going to show up in the same manner for both individuals. Anxiety shows up differently, triggers for anxiety show up differently, and therefore each person is different. Just because you think that, oh, they have anxiety because they're always on alert, they can never relax, they're always lacking sleep, doesn't mean that somebody else who has anxiety looks like they have it all together, and they must not have anxiety, they have it all together. That's not the way it works. Here are a few tips that I'm going to leave you with to help if you struggle with anxiety. Number one, it's always going to be recommended to start therapy. Therapy can help you understand your specific causes of the anxiety disorder that you have. Where did this come from? How did we get here? What was your family dynamics? What was the cultural impact? What are some of the genetic factors involved here? Did your mom or your grandma or your grandfather or your great aunt have anxiety that you know of? Can this impact that? Therapy is going to be really helpful to help you navigate through some of your questions, some of your experiences, help you put two and two together, and give you the tools that you need to work on your controllables, reducing your anxiety little by little. Next is to meet with a psychiatrist. If you feel that you want to get on medications to manage your anxiety because your anxiety has gotten to the point that it's impacted almost every area of your life, a psychiatrist is going to be really helpful to give you medication and help you manage the medication in healthy ways. Different techniques that you can work on includes emotional regulation, learning how to regulate your emotions. Remember, we talked about the amygdala and how that impacts our fear and stress response. Learning how to work on that in real time is going to be really helpful because sometimes we just don't think about it, we don't really worry about it, and we don't realize how much higher the anxiety is going little by little. When you can work on emotional regulation, you have the tools you need to say, okay, this is what I need to do in order to reduce my stress right now, because if I let this continue, it's not going to be good. Regular exercise is going to be really helpful as well because it helps you to release tension. It helps the good mood boosters and serotonin levels to increase, and it's going to help your overall mood. Limiting caffeine and alcohol, that's going to be really helpful when it comes to reducing anxiety. Having a healthy nighttime routine, getting adequate sleep is going to be really helpful as well. And lastly, working on challenging your negative thoughts. Part of anxiety is based on your thoughts, how you think about things, how you view the world, how you react. Our thoughts are one of the biggest factors that plays into this. So how are you controlling your thoughts? Whenever your thoughts start to come up negatively, are you allowing them to continue on and on and on? Or are you saying, okay, let's stop, let's use the tools that we've learned, and let's reduce the negative thoughts? That's our controllable. And if you want me to make a full video on how to reduce your negative thoughts, let me know in the comments below and I'll be sure to do so. I hope this video was helpful for you today. If you learned something new from this video or enjoyed it, make sure to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for the next video. Take care.